Well, good evening. Welcome to another video. First one for a little bit. I haven't really had anything to say. I usually get prompted for making videos and making posts, and I've noticed I've been a little quiet on that front, which is good. It's all about change. However, I was prompted yesterday to take notice of a post by a brother in Canada who supposedly a Course in Miracles student, and I'm not going to mention any names because I want to use the example, not sort of call out the specific person particularly, but the example of someone who's supposedly an advocate and a representative of the Course, the sparkly edition of the Course, and her partner, who, and I'm going to reference the teaching, Jesus' teaching that no man can serve two masters here, because I want to try and make a point and make a declaration for my own self, since what I'm seeing is a reflection of my own thoughts, unguarded thoughts or hidden thoughts, whatever they may be. But the fact that I would feel called upon to respond or react to something means that the healing or the opportunity for healing contained in the situation is reciprocal. I recognize it as an opportunity to put my finger on my nose and what that looks like for my brother, I am unconcerned about, because the offering or the giving of the certainty of my mind around the situation is without concern for how it's received. Like nobody gives a gift, as Jesus says, and then sticks around to see that that gift is used according to how you think it should be used. It's just my job to make the declaration of the certainty of my mind. In this case, no man can serve two masters. So the simple expose of the situation is that my brother, who has been representing A Course in Miracles, now seems to be rallying, and this is part of each person, right? My own thing as well. Everyone will go through this, which is why I'm making this video. But they seem to be rallying support for a political perspective in the world, under the notion, which I'm going to call it under the misguided notion, because personally I know better, personally in my own experience and my own understanding of the situation, having already gone through this one particular situation, is that everyone does go through this in the process of giving up the world, where you think that somehow Jesus came to bring heaven to earth and to build a better life for people on earth. And it's just not so. And I can understand how people, how anyone could be mistaken for thinking that. And even Jesus' own disciples initially were mistaken for thinking that, thinking that he was going to lead them in a crusade against the Roman army at the early onset of his ministry. And I think a few of them at least caught on, John and Matthew caught on at least early, that maybe Jesus wasn't really about that. He wasn't come to be the leader of, the king on earth, that in fact his kingdom is in heaven, or his kingdom is not of the world. And in line with the idea that A Course in Miracles is solely about atonement, solely about forgiveness of all my thoughts I think about the world as an idea of being separate from God, which in the auspices of healing, that forgiveness looks like me, entity and mind, Christ mind, being relieved of the false belief that the world is real and that I need to address any aspect of healing to the world or engage in the world to bring about the nature of healing. the whole point of atonement is that I'm referring the situation that I seem to think is real and that I seem to feel concerned about and that I must rally the troops to help resolve. That all needs to be offered through the Holy Spirit to God for the healing of my mind that believes it's real, that believes I'm separate from God. And the emotional load against realizing that that is the nature of healing, that is the nature of atonement, can be immense. Because wherever any brother is at in their own healing cycle, obviously, their own healing process, obviously that's always going to be perfect. But as an elder brother, let's say it is given me somehow, and somehow is always the conundrum, somehow to represent this message with as much clarity as I can, that atonement is divine and has nothing to do with reconciling the nature of what one person or what one group of people sees as injustice or inequality or something in the world, as opposed to what another group of people might be all putting their hand up for, going, yes, that's what we want, and this is true justice. There's no reconciliation possible there. The yin and the yang never meet. And it's hard to actually hear that. And I know because I was once concerned with the goings-on of the world to such a degree that it drove me to a point of suicide. It drove me to a point of feeling such a way about it and feeling like I was called on my spiritual journey to make a difference in the world to such a degree that it took a long time to realize the impossibility of that, because fundamentally there is no world, which is the central lesson the Course in Miracles attempts to teach. And yet I use the lessons, I use the idea of a world, the residue of a world that still seems to show up in witness to represent my ability and my willingness to make a new choice, not of the earth, as the catalyst for healing my mind that believes anything about the world in its entirety is true, including me sitting here making this video now. As paradoxical and as crazy as that seems. But without the miracle, you don't see beyond the paradox. Without the miracle, you don't experience what else there is beyond the world. You don't get above the battleground, which is why all healing has to be miraculous in the mind that sees the need for it. Not by calling more and more witnesses, not by calling more and more like-minded people together to try and make a difference in the world. It's like Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Ultimately and immediately, my goal is inner peace. And from a peaceful place, I look out and see a world redeemed. I also see where, if it's given to me, there is an opening perhaps to extend the call of awakening, because once you accept atonement for yourself, you automatically become part of the call to awaken, which is what it says in the Course in Miracles, whether a prophet is welcome in their own home or not. Just to borrow a phrase, a biblical phrase. A prophet is never welcome in their own home. So those who know me personally, or those who know of me, are very unlikely to want to give credence to my words, because basically they think that I am like them, a Course in Miracles student. Someone who is struggling or dealing with the rigors of atonement. And quite simply, I'm not. I'm not separate from that, but I'm not that either. So my involvement in it is simply as, if you like, a herald of the certainty that he has risen, a herald of the certainty that the Father and the Son are one, and that there is no world. There was no Roman Empire. There is no Donald Trump empire in this particular case. There is no Canadian Empire. There is none of that. There is nothing. There is only God. There is only the love of God. And that is what it is that I choose to represent through the determination to express the certainty of my mind based on the experience I've had of meeting Jesus and listening to his voice and going beyond, out of this physical body 3 times now. The first time, union with God. The second time, not exactly sure where I was, but I was in a place that made sense relative to my awakening procedure at the time, where I met other teachers of God who are, if you like, overseeing the experiment of A Course in Miracles. And the third time was, I guess, interdimensional, where I was told that my new body is ready, and when I'm done with this one, I absolutely guarantee I'll be jostling off there to make use of it. There is no world. You know, you have to declare it again and again and again. Everything's always perfect. I can think that I see a world that needs healing. I can think that I see a situation that needs my resolution. I can think that I need see a world apart from God where people suffer, get old and die. But this is the world that it's given me to heal in my own mind by accepting my sole responsibility as a miracle worker, which is to accept atonement for myself. What that looks like in the playing out is a greater entering into a sense of self-certainty and a greater release from the necessity to continue to believe the stories and the affairs of what I once thought was a world that seemed to be quite real to me. In the world, but not of it. In the world, but not of it. Simply the observer, above the battlefield. And from there I call. From there I invite. From there I usher in as best I can, and sometimes quite clumsily, I must admit. The understanding that this situation is quite unprecedented. Like it's the paradoxical nature of existence and non-existence at the same time. There seeming to be a world and knowing that there is no world at the same time is an unprecedented situation to which salvation and the resurrection are the pivotal repentance point. But in order to know of that and to walk a mile in Jesus's shoes, there is the necessity to have the experience that there is no world. Concepts are nothing. I was told by this brother that not to engage with the world is spiritual transcendence or spiritual bypassing, bypassing. But bypassing is simply to fail to accept atonement for oneself in the face of what the world seems to present as the opportunity for healing the mind that believes that it's real and it's in the first place. It's a form of transcendence where one tells oneself, oh, there is no world, and doesn't actually do the inner work where you get in touch with the emotional baggage, the emotional load of associated temporal weight, if you like, that binds you and tethers you and keeps you loaded down in the situation that the world is presenting. And that's always going to be a confrontation with fear, usually a deep confrontation with fear. But to spiritually bypass a situation is not to not get involved in what I think it is that needs to occur to fix it. Because you can't fix what doesn't exist. You can't fix what Like Jesus says in the Course, the nature of the world is to continue to offer problems that its purpose is to keep, not to heal, to keep. But I can heal my mind of the emotional attachment I have to actually wanting to continue to participate in the world as it seems to show up. Problems and no problems. Situations and no situations that seem to trigger me or maybe not trigger me. Upset me or not upset me. It's the same thing. Any interaction with the world, any kind of value that I give the world for it or against it, is subject matter for my atonement. But God takes the final step. And I have met people who tell me they've seen God and still fight the good fight on the earth. And I don't understand that. The only thing that I can understand regarding that is that, as in Buddhism, Buddhism talks about different states of out of body or altered consciousness as samadhi states, and there are many, many experiences of samadhi and along the way to self-realization. And it is my understanding from talking to people about their experiences also that these states are often confused with union with God. I feel like I'm one with everything. I was connected to the trees, the mountains, and etc., 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 as in the case of Jim Carrey. That's still not it. I saw everything as light. The trees became light. The world became light. My body was light. That's still not it. I saw everything as gold, a river of gold. Everything dissolved into gold. My body became gold. That's still not it. Direct union with God is completely formless. There's no body that becomes anything. There's no trees. There's no rivers. It's an experience of entering into the undescribable. Jesus says in the Course that it's so rare that if it happens, so be it. If it doesn't happen, so be it as well. Mind training is the most important thing now. For me, it happened, and so be it. I haven't really yet met anyone that I can dance around the mulberry bush with, and we both know, well, I know of people, but I haven't met them in the form. And to talk about it as being enlightened, I guess, is false, because it's a temporary state and therefore a false state. It's not experienced here, but it is witnessed to here through the individual conscious association. But getting back to the idea that no man can serve two masters, I'm either serving love through forgiveness, unconditional love through forgiveness, and doing my goddamn best to extend the call to join in that release from the world for all who are tired and weary and seek for true justice. Or I'm not entering into that at all. There's a joining, there's a calling, and it has nothing to do with the world. True healing has nothing to do with the world. But the world will witness to the healing, because the world is a symbol of the state of mind that believes it is separate from God, and politics, power, dynasties, civilizations, individual relationships, special relationships, they're all part of the symbolism. Not separate from any of it. Not separate from any of it. It is all grist for the mill. It is all for atonement. Heal the mind that believes in what it sees, and it will no longer see it the way it saw it before. There will no longer be any call to fix, to heal, to change. There will only be the call to awaken and the joyous song of prayer to awaken to. No man can serve two masters. Keep going. Give up the world. Follow me. I've been out of time and come back to give you the same message that was given 2,000 years ago, was given 2 years ago, was given 2 seconds ago, that is being expressed through the call to awaken, because God is always calling to his Son. Dreamer, awaken.